In this video we're going to be looking over this Olympus Infinity Stylus Zoom DLX 35mm film camera, and my goal here is to demonstrate it to give you a sense of its condition as if you were holding it in your hands. And to do that, I have a battery and a scrap roll of film. These are not included, but they're here for our testing purposes. So to get started, we're going to pop open the battery compartment. We can do that putting a penny right here and gently prying that open. And then we put in the type 123 battery, snap the door shut. Then we can load the film by opening up the back of the camera like this, and we put this scrap. Before we load it, let's look at the inside of this a little bit just to make sure everything looks good. This surface looks good here. Looks like some pretty serious optics right there. And the gasket around the door, that looks good all the way around. Pressure plate looks good. So I think we're all set. Let's load up this film. Drop that side in there, a little tail in there a little bit, and then close the door. We hear it winding. Okay, so now we can open this cover to turn it on. And I could tell just in opening that it didn't feel exactly right. In fact, yeah, it feels like there's no ball bearing in there. So it works, but it just doesn't feel quite right. And I noticed on the bottom here, there is a little bit of plastic chipped out right there on that edge. So, you know, it's cosmetic, and the way this works when you open it to turn it on, it's not quite as smooth, and if you accidentally bump this just a little bit, it will turn it off unintentionally. So that's just something to be aware of. And other than that, though, everything seemed to work just fine. So let's get into demonstrating. First, I'm going to set it to fill in flash, so it will for sure flash for us. So now if I set this over here and pop this off, it flashed. That looked good. And I heard it wind to the next frame, so now it's on picture number 2. Let's now shut the flash off, since we've already verified that works. So there's off. Let's set it on timer mode. So now we can set the camera out here and push the shutter button, and the red light comes on, and it'll start blinking as it gets ready to finish its cycle. Okay, there it started blinking, and there it completed its cycle. We should verify that the telephoto lens works. It's at 35 and goes up to 70, goes back down. And I verified that the optics in the viewfinder also follow along with that. Let's look at these little buttons here, and in order to push those, I'm going to take this little tweezer here. Now you can step through the mode, and it comes up there with an 8911, and there's some different modes that you can have, or you can have all dashes. Now if we bring up the one with 89 and then we hold that in, the 89 starts flashing, and we can start stepping up through the years with this. We're up to 99, 2000, 07, 8, 9, 10, 13, 19, 20, and unfortunately after the year 2020 it reverts back to 1989. So as we can see, the clock or the calendar that's built into this camera only runs up through the year 2020. So most likely you're not going to want to use that, and you're just going to want to set that to all dashes. Use this again here. There. And so that feature, while it works, it's probably not very useful anymore. So now let's just take a few more pictures, and we can note that the lens in there moves to focus. And I see the shutter actuating. So let's just use up the rest on this short little test roll here. And then we'll, okay, it reached the end. So now the lens retracts, the flash retracts, and we hear the motor running. And what's happening is the film is now rewinding. You can see it counting backwards here, back down toward 1. And it's going to keep going to make sure it's got enough. There, it's finally broke free of the take-up spool. The flashing E signifies that the rewind is done, and we can open up the cartridge and pull the cartridge out, and the film is all rewound back into here. So, as we have looked at this camera, everything seems pretty good about it, except for that front cover. You know, the door latches nicely. It's just a matter of this cover here, and like we're demonstrating here, it does work, but it should slide a little bit smoother than that, and there should be a definite click into the two extents, and that is not there, and there's that little bit of damage right there that I showed. So I'm going to pop that battery back out, since that's not included in the sale. And we can look here, this is also a kind of a sealed compartment. I feel a rubber gasket around there, and that looks good. And the surfaces that mates up with are good. The contacts are nice and clean.